It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
Liz is back. Yay!
She sounds just a little bit too cheerful, too. But anyway.
Oh, we'll beat her down tonight.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to throw out there, whoever I have pissed off or who has the voodoo doll of me, I'm sorry. Leave me alone now. I'll be good.
It's a very lifelike voodoo doll that they have, that's for sure. Holy cow.
Right. I am so done. Oh, God. Yeah.
2020 has not been a good year to Liz so far. So.
No, none of it.
Not really.
So, hope everybody out there is doing all right. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Go ahead, Liz. You had a week off. You know you want to.
Well, part of my problem while I was off was I got prescribed an antihistamine, which I didn't know was an antihistamine. So I flipped out. I mean, I'm talking really flipped out. So anyways, the next morning I come out and I look at Phil and I said, did the freaking Pentagon just release UFO tapes? I mean, am I tripping that bad or is this real shit? You know, have we gotten in such a state that everybody just kind of missed that the Pentagon released UFO footage? And he's like, no, you're not tripping.
Well,
it's true.
Right.
They did.
Not about that, anyway.
Yeah. Which was kind of cool because I had to ask because I've been watching a lot of UFO shows and stuff on TV and how they could have helped with pyramids. And a lot of this stuff you're kind of like, but some of it's like, well, that makes sense, you know. And then the Pentagon goes and does this. It was like, man, why didn't you release this when all those people were headed to Area 51? You could have made them stop and think.
They released it now because everybody's mind is on something else.
Yeah.
And nobody will notice except for the crazies. No offense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had to ask to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Right. Exactly.
But that's kind of cool. I mean, so now you kind of have to go, well, how many of these conspiracy theories should we be really paying attention to? You know, I mean, I'm sorry if this virus was a test, we failed, and they've moved on. So, they're not viable. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, just in the last couple of years, how far we've gone to seeing Pluto. I mean, it seems like when that happened too, people were like, oh yeah, that's boring. Are you kidding me? We've never seen this before. Or not so up close, and now not only were we there, we passed it, and now we're going to figure out what's past Pluto. You know, to me, that's pretty freaking awesome, you know. So, but yeah, UFOs.
I'm sorry, I don't want to know what follows Pluto.
Goofy?
No, we have 2 dogs as it is, and I know what follows them. So.
You with a plastic bag. That's what.
Correct. Right on the button.
Well, then they were talking on one of these shows that we received a transmission and we couldn't quite figure out what it was. But they're thinking that by the time we got it and everything else, it was 20 years. And I just kind of had to laugh because it was like, can you imagine? Here comes the USA showing up in our little space shuttle, and they're like, hey, we got your message. And they're all looking. I'm like, man, wasn't that like freaking 20 years ago? We already got the beer.
If they name it
We had
V'ger,
Dusty
then
right
if they say V'ger, then run away.
right. Oh. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But another thing I got zoned out on is there's a channel called the American Heroes channel, and they have a series on that's called Natural Born Outlaws. And it's pretty cool because they break the story down into like 3 parts. One of those parts is like comic book, like it's not a cartoon, but it's like comic book panels that sometimes the arm will move or, kind of tells that story. But then they have the actors who are playing and telling their part of the story. And then the third part is the historians who come in with, the newspaper articles and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool though. They had, Bonnie and Clyde, which I thought I knew a lot about them because they were Texas outlaws, But the guy who was hunting them down, one thing, he was vicious. But the historian was like, they were the only criminals, or, they were the only criminals that won. It was the first female that these cops had to actually decide we're going to have to kill her. You just didn't do that back then. I mean, really, even now it's kind of frowned upon, but, But he had said he didn't understand why Americans were so obsessed with outlaws. And it was like, well, I hadn't really thought about that because although Bonnie and Clyde, they did do a couple of things, giving money to people here and there, they murdered people and they were considered heroes, Jesse James, he murdered people and he was considered a hero, So it is kind of weird when you think about it. Americans are really the only ones who are obsessed like that with the outlaws, not the good guys, but the bad guys, But they did play one on Jesse James too. And there was a lot of things like murdering his parents I had forgot about and, but yeah, like, so that's on, American Heroes channel. I've never heard of that one. I found it flippin', so.
It sounds like one for people to look up. I'm interested.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting because, like I said, it's not just a one-sided story. They do come in with the newspapers and kind of clean the story up from fiction and here's what really happened. You have the legend, but here's what they really did. I thought one of the neat things, though, they said they couldn't prove it, but Jesse James this is after Frank had retired. I guess it was the younger brothers he was with, had went to a widow's house and they had dinner. And she gave them dinner, put them up for the night. Well, that morning when she had fed them breakfast and stuff, they had noticed she was crying. And they're like, well, why are you crying? And she's like, well, the bank is going to come and take my house away from me today. And he said, really? Well, how much do you owe? And she said $500. Back then, you might as well have said 20,000, Yeah. Well, the guys get together and pull out, $500. Banker comes, she gives him the cash, gets him to sign a receipt. Banker's leaving, he gets robbed. Who do you think robbed him?
I wonder.
Tell me.
Yeah. But I thought that was kind of cool. He was like, I'm going to take my money back, thank you. But she still believes that they did a good deed and, she has the receipt, so it doesn't matter. But it is, like I said, it's pretty cool because, with Jesse James, there's not a lot documented, but what is, they had, and showed the pictures and that kind of thing. And everyone's like, oh, he was a good-looking kid. And it was like, not really. But yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's a new channel. I've never really noticed it before. But most of, I guess that was Saturday, was all the outlaws and that kind of thing. And then the next day, it was more Pearl Harbor and those kind of things.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, I think people were obsessed because of the time. With the bank robbers, it was because of the shortage of money. And they were outwitting the bank. So people were for that.
Yeah. Finally getting one over on the bank instead of the bank getting one over on them.
Right.
Yeah, because that was like the heart of the Depression.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bonnie
Well,
and
and
Clyde specifically.
they said with Jesse James, before he would rob anyone, he would ask them if they were a soldier or a widow of a soldier, or, he would check their hands to make sure they weren't working class people. He only wanted to steal from the rich, or traders, as he later went on.
Yeah, well, the rich are the ones with the money, so that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. And that, and he didn't want to steal from somebody in the same position he was in. I'm out here robbing trains to make it. I don't want to take the last from you and make you go rob a train somewhere,
That was just free enterprise.
Right. That's just him not creating his own competition. That's just, again, smart.
Job security. Well, I think his guns were job security. And that's how he got shot. He put his guns down. But the way they described that scene, it's almost like he knew they were going to shoot him in the back. He couldn't trust them. They weren't family. With family, you don't have loyalty the way he did with Frank. So,
Robert Cole, is that who it was? Who was the shooter?
I think I don't remember. It was the group he was with right after Frank. I don't know if it was one of the youngers or I forget that part of the story now. Just the way that he was shot, he made a point to tell them, I'm going to take these guns off, and then went and dusted a pitcher. So it was kind of like, huh. So I think he knew.
Okay. Mike?
Me? Oh, gosh. See, part of why I let her go first is because I got nothing this week. I have been I've been fighting insomnia all week, so I have either been unconscious or semi-conscious, and so I have not really done much of anything interesting. I think I'm finally getting a handle on it now, but only now, only like today. Am I finally like coherent?
That's good that you're coherent, not that you're not sleeping.
And how coherent is coherent? We'll let y'all be the judge, but
All right, Les.
Well, let's see. Took in some documentaries. One was about Mel Brooks. I don't know if anybody's talked about this one. It was an American Masters special that ran several years ago. It was quite amusing, especially to have cast members and longtime friends do interviews. The other was really interesting. I don't know if we've spoken of it before. It's called I Know That Voice. It's about voiceover actors. And it was fascinating to see all of these people that did their voices there on screen and talked about how they got into the business and how it progressed and what came of it, how it spread out. John DiMaggio is the man that directed it, and he is the voice of Bender on Futurama, among other cartoons that he's done.
It's on Adventure Time too, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
the dog, is that who he is?
I think so.
I think you're right.
So it was really fun to have them there projecting voices that you go, wow, I didn't know that. But then to start putting faces together with the voices was fascinating. It was really something to see. So I recommend that.
Yeah.
What was that on?
That was on Amazon Prime.
Is it?
Yeah.
I have to check that out. I like that kind of stuff too.
I've seen that one. It is really good. Really good.
I think one of the neatest things they did was SpongeBob's birthday was actually this month, and he turned 21. But for the 20th, they did like for his birthday, he went up to the surface, and they went to like this burger shack. But all the voice actors were inside playing the counterparts of, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs and all that. So it was pretty cool because once they opened their mouths, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that he looked like that. I would have never guessed. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah, to see Clancy Brown go into a voice. And I don't watch the show, so I was not really aware of all of it. But it was fun to have him talk about voicing and surprising people.
Yeah.
Nancy Cartwright, who is the voice of Bart Simpson, said that if somebody came up and asked her to do the voice, she would, but for kids like 6 and under, she would say, close your eyes.
Yeah.
That way they could recognize the voice, but not be shocked by it was a woman doing it.
Yeah, I think didn't she actually freak some kids out once doing that or something, and that's why she does that now.
Yeah.
The whole long story about it. It was pretty cool, pretty amazing.
Well, that kind of takes the magic away.
Exactly.
It can, yeah.
Okay, anything else, Les?
No?
Okay. I got in a book that I did not know existed. I'm sure Les does not know it existed. And I've enjoyed the hell out of it. It's from Quirk Books, and it was put together by John Morris. And this is actually the third in series. Don't know if there will be a fourth one, but it's been a hoot to read. The first book was called The League of Regrettable Superheroes. The second volume was A Legion of Regrettable Supervillains. This one's called The League of Regrettable Sidekicks. And what this does, if you're not familiar with this series, is it basically catalogs a list of characters that are actually have been created for comics, going back to the Golden Age to more recent times that are just, unfortunately these characters have been created. They exist. And it's just kind of fun to kind of go back and read some of these. And the thing that kind of makes it really funny is there's like little, these are like one or maybe 2 pages of kind of just a synopsis about the character and all that. And on the side, there'd be like a little kind of description saying, okay, it was created by this person. The first appearance was in this book. And in this case, it will say who the character was a sidekick to. And then there would be something, and the next thing would be something really stupid. Just something kind of a funny comment. And in this, for a particular example, one I'm looking at right now, the sidekick's name is Bingo. This was created. His first appearance was in Prize Comics, October 1943. He was partnered with the Flying Fist. So the Flying Fist and Bingo. And the funny little bit part here says, not to be confused with Plinko, Yahtzee, Uno, or Lotto.
Which would be even worse if those were actually the names of other sidekicks. But yeah.
Right. It's a fun book to read, and there's some amazing characters. Let me just go through the list here a little bit. I'll just point out a few. Let me see if I can.
Was that a dingo?
I think so.
Okay.
Sounded like it was eating something. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, we can hear that.
Oh yes.
Sorry. I think Phil might be home. It's the only time it sounds like a Justin Bieber concert in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the little one don't bark, he screams.
That's what it kind of sounded like.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Like, here's one called Stampy, who is partnered with Airmail. I mean, how bad is that?
Did you say Stinky?
Stampy.
Stampy.
Oh, Stampy. Okay.
See, now does that make sense? Stampy,
Yes.
Airmail.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so does Stinky and Airmail, but okay.
Stinky in almost anything could make sense. I mean,
True.
it's almost too low a hanging fruit.
Yeah, that's true. Here's some that y'all may be aware of. How about Rick Jones from the Silver Age, the professional sidekick to Hulk and Captain America and Captain Marvel and all of them.
Yeah.
The Super Apes, also a Marvel group that was part of with the Red Ghost, a Fantastic Four villain. More recent, how about the Brat Pack? You remember that series, Les?
Yes, I do.
That's who he's talking about. D-Man, who was sidekick with Captain America. Moon Boy, of course, with Devil Dinosaur. How about Rusty the Boyd Robot?
Yep.
And then, of course, I got to mention this one, the T-Force.
T as in the letter T, or T as in
As in T, as in the sidekicks to Mr. T.
Oh.
The
Okay.
T-Force. Mr. T and the T-Force.
That T. Gotcha.
That T. Which is funny because let me read this to you, because it was created. T-Force was created by Neil Adams and Pete Stone. Debuted in Mr. T and the T-Force from Now Comics back in June of 1993. Sidekicks to Mr. T. Targets are fools. Weapon pity.
Keep pity the fool.
Yes. So this is this has been it's a fun little book. I definitely recommend y'all checking it out and check out the other two books while you're at it. And like I said, they're all from Quirk Books. And kind of picketing back on what I was talking about last week, I'm still kind of addicted to the Red Dead Redemption roleplay that I've been watching on Twitch. It's been some really, really, really good role playing for what I was seeing. There's been scenes that were very powerful. Unfortunately, there's been some stuff that go, oh, that's bad. But really, really some really good. There's some really talented role players that are playing this game. I definitely recommend checking it out. So if you hadn't, definitely take a look at it, because there's some great storylines going on right now. It's been kind of cool, and of course I said last week, I'll still say it. It looks beautiful. I mean, just the cinematography, the look of the land, the skies, and all that, the conditions of the buildings, everything. It looks phenomenal. It really does. So,
Cool.
yep. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into this week's discussion. Normally, right around this time, last couple of years or so, we would normally do a summer movie preview. But with the current situation, things have changed. I mean, if we have a summer movie season, it's going to be abbreviated. God knows, I don't really need to say any more about that because we all know the situation. I don't have to explain it. So what I thought we would do is, since we had so much fun last year, kind of looking back at the films that were released in the summer of 1984, that we would do a follow-up with films that were released in the summer of 1985. So with that, we're going to go ahead and look at list for May, and I'm just going to open up the floor, and whatever films y'all want to talk about that's been released that time, go right ahead.
Hey, we got a Bond movie in May of '85.
Yes, the last Roger Moore film.
But yeah, I mean, you barely call it a Bond movie, but it's a Bond movie, damn it. It's not really anybody's favorite, but it's a Bond movie. I believe, though, that was the first one I saw in the theaters.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's kind of a tough one, but it's like, oh my God, it's Christopher Walken, it's a bad guy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good, but
yeah.
It has a couple of redeeming qualities. I mean, yeah, Walken. The funny thing is, if you watched any Christopher Walken stuff, if you ever want to see him try to overact, this is it.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
I mean, he's an overactor to start with, is the deal. Any little small role he's in, he's overacting. This was him actually trying to overact, and it's amusing for that, if nothing else. Him overacting a Bond villain, it's something to see. Try not to think about the fact that the guy playing Bond is in his 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a little ridiculous, to say the least, but yeah.
Was that Jim Cotta?
Was what?
Is that the Bond movie, Jim Cotta?
No, A View to a Kill. Jim Cotta, what the? You're jerking my chain. No,
sounds like fun, huh?
Wasn't that one of those canon movies?
I think you're right.
That was with the gymnast from OU. He was also a Olympic.
Anthony Edwards.
What?
The gymnast was Kurt Thomas.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Anthony Edwards.
I didn't see this one.
You had me scared.
Well, I had to pull it up to look.
Yeah, that's fine.
Gotcha. Yeah. But yeah, it said Jonathan Moore, which is Anthony Edwards, is a shy UCLA veterinarian student and reigning champion at Gotcha.
Okay, that's not what he said. You're looking up a different movie. No, that's on the list. That's the one above it.
Oh, okay. I thought he said Gotcha.
No, he said Jim Cotta.
Oh.
And I can't find any evidence that it was a canon movie. It just says it was released by MGM. So, there you go.
Who, me? I got the wrong movie again?
It's shocking, isn't it?
Who'd have thunk it?
Oh, my goodness.
It's like it's becoming a trademark for you or something. Right. I don't know.
Uh,
At least you're on the list.
yeah, same month.
Mm,
Yeah, even really close to it on the list. That was.
yeah.
I was ready to see the movie Fletch because I had read a couple of the books, and I was sorely disappointed. This was Chevy Chase's take on a good book, similar to Seth Rogen landing the Green Hornet.
Here's the thing about Fletch. Here's the thing, and let's be honest about this. If you think about it, they were trying to mimic Beverly Hills Cop, right down to the music.
Yeah.
They saw how successful Beverly Hills Cop was. They were already working on trying to do a Fletch movie. Hey, well, let's do the same thing, right down to getting a former Saturday Night Live performer. That's what it was. I liked the film. I've not read the books.
Right.
I do like the film. And that's probably why I enjoyed it.
Right, and that's the deal, is if you go into it not being familiar with the books, it's actually a funny movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's hilarious.
He is.
But if you go into it thinking, hey, I'm going to see is it John McDonald? I forget.
I don't recall.
Something McDonald. It was one of the McDonald people. But yeah, if you go
Ronald?
into it from but yeah, if you go into it thinking that that's what you're getting, that you're getting what was in the books, no, people were pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the movie did not do particularly well, despite the fact that it's actually pretty funny if you forget the fact that it's a Fletch movie.
Yeah.
We got Rambo 2. Literally Rambo 2.
Yeah.
First Blood Part 2. Wouldn't that be Second Blood? I don't know.
You would think they would do that should have been. That way it should have been. It would have been smart, but hey. People got paid to come up with that title.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Way too much. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the remake of Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor and John Candy, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that was probably one of the ones of Richard Pryor I didn't like very much. It was okay, and I like John Candy, but
see, that's the thing with Richard Pryor. He was a kind of a groundbreaking comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He was not good at picking movie scripts.
No.
I mean, very few of the movies he did were actually any good. He did quite a few of them in that time frame. And there just aren't any real winners.
Yeah.
There are a couple that were reasonably good, but there were not very many.
I think my favorite by him was Toy.
See, that's a
when he was
terrible movie
alone.
too.
It is, but
believe me, I've
the time
seen it.
Came out.
That was one, and here we go. That was one that we were like one of the first families on our block that get a VCR. And so basically by the time that movie came out on cable and we could record it off of cable, I think the statute of limitations is up on that. The VCR we had was kind of old, and so that tape got stuck in it. And so for a few months there, if we wanted to watch a movie, it was the Toy. It was not a good movie to start with. Watching it 50 or 60 times does not make it better, I assure you.
Right.
And the sad thing is, you look at that and go, oh my God, Richard Pryor. And you got
Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
You're going, this should be a funny film. And no.
It did not work. It did not work. It was not a good story. Not a good story for either actor, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think his best work was done with Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
They just knew how to play off each other and make it work. They were funny and goofy together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, since you already mentioned it, how about Gotcha? Did anybody see that film?
God, no.
No.
No, I did not.
I did a long time ago. It was okay.
Say now, it's a pretty bad movie if Les hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, but he watched it.
No, right. That's not true. It could be great just because, because he watches crap.
Yeah.
Rustler's Rhapsody.
I didn't know that one either.
You're lucky. Just walk away.
All right, so are we ready to move on to June then? I guess we covered everything for May pretty much.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I think the scariest movie I ever watched as a kid was Return to Oz.
What?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Cocoon. I go, what the hell?
I would have said the stuff, but okay.
You had this, reject Jack Skellington walking around. You had this scarecrow that looked like it was in some kind of, I don't know. It was just bad. It was really bad. And that's coming from a Wonderland fan, or Oz fan, so it was bad. I think they tried to, how do we go one up? And it was bad. They needed to work on their characters a little better.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Well, of this group, I think I've missed out on Warriors of the Wind and Secret Admirer. Everything else I've seen.
Even Perfect?
Yeah. Yeah, that was one with Jamie Lee Curtis, wasn't it? As the fitness instructor or something.
Yeah. And John Travolta, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the best one on the list for June is The Goonies. That's yeah.
That's like one of those movies that if you were a kid at that time, you kind of had to see.
Yep. Because everybody was talking about it.
Well, see, I thought you were going to talk about St. Elmo's Fire. So.
Well, that wasn't necessarily so much a kid movie, but...
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
It did well enough in its own way.
That was the one with Howie Mandel, wasn't it? And George Clooney?
Which one?
What?
No, you're thinking of Gotcha.
St. Elmo's Fire, isn't that where...
That was with the Brat Pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson.
Yeah, okay.
Directed by Joel Schumacher. Didn't know that.
I was thinking it was the...
never mind.
Like the hospital one. Wasn't there a St. Elmo's Fire hospital?
That was St. Elsewhere. That was a TV show.
Oh, okay.
Kind of in the same time frame. But yeah, that was, yeah.
Now that I liked.
That was Mark Harmon. And yes, Howie Mandel was on there too.
Howie Mandel. Ed Begley Jr.
Yep.
The one that could give me a tear is Cocoon.
That was
I thoroughly enjoyed Cocoon.
Yeah.
I saw a thing online the other day, and it was a long way to go for an interesting trivial piece, but it was pointing out that Jennifer Lopez on that day was the same age, and this was like just a couple of weeks ago, was the same age that Wilford Brimley was when he made Cocoon.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, and needless to say, there were pictures, and like comparing, and so yeah, it was an interesting
Did
idea.
she have the mustache?
Strangely enough, if she did, she had done something about it, I guess. But yeah, no, she looks pretty dang good for someone who was Wilford Brimley's age when he made Cocoon. Completely random thing that happened.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, you got pretty.
Yeah, I was like, Cocoon is famously about old people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Wilford Brimley was even all that old. I mean, he was like 50 something. He was in his early 50s when that movie was made. I don't know.
Right.
Wow. And you had Prizzi's Honor, Jack Nicholson, and Angelica Houston.
Weirdly, I remember seeing that. I was definitely way too young to be seeing that, but I remember seeing it.
Well, as long as we're at that position, guys, what age were you in 1985?
I was still 13 in the summer.
At this time, in July of 1985, where we're talking about these particular set of films, or
yeah,
okay, all right, or June. I'm sorry, we're still in June.
I would have turned 10 in June.
I was 14.
Okay.
And I didn't actually go to the movies all that much, so I saw a lot of these movies, but it was like 6 months later on cable.
Right.
That was us. My dad was in electronics, so you may have had the first VCR, but we had the first Betamax.
Actually, ours was a Betamax. But we had it a couple of years by this point. We'd gotten it like in 82 or 83. I don't remember exactly, but.
So he always had movies. I think he worked for Curtis Mathis for a while, and they had like a small selection of movies you could rent, so you could play it on your Betamax or disc. What were those disc records things called? Not
laser discs.
Laser
disc. Yeah, we had that too. So I think I saw these like later.
Yeah.
Wes, how old were you?
Okay, let's move on to the next month.
He was about Wilford Brimley's age, I think.
Wow, that was cool.
So Mike is driving tonight.
Wow. No, actually, I was 24.
There, see, that wasn't so bad.
Well, at least I could see him legally.
Right. Hey, it's perfectly legal to watch him on Showtime. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
As long as you weren't watching it between the bars, it was okay.
Depends on what kind of bar we're talking about, but anyway.
Right. So I told my kids, you guys will never understand trying to watch a movie while it's being scrambled. If you flip the channel just right, it might kind of
right, you might be able to make out a face. Yeah.
Right.
I remember doing that a little bit back in the day.
Yep.
You know.
Because you could hear it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
You just couldn't see it very well.
Yeah.
If you shook your head real good, you could.
If you squinted just right.
Right. See, I always found that the key was to not focus on the screen. You kind of have to let your eyes sort of glaze over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like those magic eye pictures?
Yes.
Exactly.
It's a sailboat.
That movie came later. That was 10 years later. Come on now.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to July. And what an interesting list here.
Yeah. Of course, Back to the Future. That's still popular today.
What's that about?
Yeah. Who?
Back to the what now?
Did he get there?
There and back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Explorers a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And Mad Max.
Yeah, Explorers is a fun little movie. It really is.
I seem to recall Silverado being a pretty good movie too.
Yeah.
And I don't usually go for westerns.
Yeah.
And I had such faith in that movie because I thought that would bring westerns strongly back. And I know just a short while before was Pale Rider.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was a wider appeal to me. But from it, we did not get a lot of westerns.
Nope.
No. And then Disney's blockbuster of the summer, The Black Cauldron.
Never seen that one.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Which
I
is
didn't
weird.
like it as much as the Merlin one. What was that? The Sword and the
The Sword
Stone?
and Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the weird part is that the Black Cauldron would be right up my alley, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was an age thing. Maybe in that time frame I decided I didn't want to watch Disney movies or something. I don't know. I was a moody teenager, whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, you mentioned Mad Max. Of course, this wasn't the good one. This was Beyond Thunderdome.
Right.
But still, there was Mad Max that year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what, the third in the series?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because we had Mad Max, and then we had The Road Warrior, and then this one.
Which one was Tina Turner in?
This one.
This one.
Beyond
This one?
Thunderdome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, not the best one of them.
Nope. And European Vacation, of course.
Yeah.
Another one that I have not seen all the way through. I've seen pieces of it.
It's funny. It's watched.
Yeah,
I hadn't watched it in forever.
That's probably why, is because that's the kind of thing I was hearing about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever.
And to me, the big draw that month was Back to the Future, but the one I really enjoyed was Kiss of the Spider Woman with John Hurt.
William Hurt.
William Hurt.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Don't think I saw that one either.
Yeah, I know I haven't.
Now, the Heavenly Kid that's on the list,
Mm-hmm.
for our age group, Mickey Mouse Club was kind of like a rock pop kind of thing. And they used to play movie clips in between each of their little things that they were doing. And I could swear that this movie, they chopped up in pieces and they played it during the Mickey Mouse Club. If not, it was a story very, very close in this, that theme. Drag racing kid dies, comes back so he can get his wings.
They seem to make one of those about every 10 years.
Yeah, they do.
Usually it's around Christmas.
Yeah, I was about to say, was there a bell ringing when he got his wings?
Clarence!
See, you went there, and I was thinking, God bless us, everyone.
Mike, I got to say that was the best Jimmy Stewart impression I've ever heard.
It really wasn't even intentional. I just had to clear my throat,
Oh, okay.
And of course, Day of the Dead, what was at the time considered the third in the trilogy, after Night and Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Has whether it was third or not changed?
Well, it's not really a trilogy because he went and did more. So, it's third, but not exactly a trilogy.
It's kind of a Hitchhiker's trilogy,
Well, that's true.
In 6 parts.
Good point. I stand corrected.
Oh, you shouldn't. It wasn't intended as a correction.
Boy, no one's going to bring up the man with one red shoe.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was amusing. That was the Tom Hanks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Back when he was starting to be a thing.
Yes, this was pre-drama. This was all him doing comedies at the time. Yeah. I have not seen the original version. It was like based off, like a French film, something like that.
Which one?
It's a French film called The Tall Blonde Man with One Black Shoe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we knew that Americans couldn't hang on that long for a title.
It's a pity they forgot that with the recent Harley Quinn movie, but anyway.
Yeah, really.
Between that and I could never have sex with a man with such little regard for my husband.
You see, the fun part is that a phrase like that probably translates into 3 words. But
More than likely.
Whatever language you're doing it in, or whatever language it came from.
Legend of Billie Jean.
I hadn't seen that one.
Never saw that one either.
That's been on, I want to say that's been on Amazon Prime, if you want to sit and watch it. It's a outlaw movie. So,
there you go, Liz. Keep your outlaw fix going.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and... we forgot about Red Sonja. Or did we not want to mention Red Sonja?
Did we really forget?
Can you?
I don't remember it being all that good, honestly. But I also don't know that I saw it all the way through. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Which would kind of confirm the first statement.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
Okay, we will be moving on. Okay, how about August?
Oh, man.
How about August?
Yes. My first brush with Tim Burton that I knew of. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Well, I thought don't follow that bird.
Now, although Follow That Bird was probably the reason why Big Bird almost got blew up from that story that Thomas was telling us.
Yeah.
Kind of made him popular and, back on lunch boxes and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he got the movie because he had been so popular, and then the opportunity. Yeah, you're right. Okay, go ahead and say it, Mikey.
Which one am I supposed to say?
I figured you'd say Real Genius.
Oh, yeah. It was there. It's a fun movie.
I so love that movie. I'll sit and watch that most any time it is on TV. I'll stop and watch it because it's so amusing, and then to see some of the actors is astounding. Was it Melanie Meyernick played the nerdy girl, and she was the one that she didn't put the ice in the hallway, but she showed up with skates or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. She had ice skates. She just happened to have ice skates.
Yeah.
She was the one that was. Yeah, I mean, she was the one who just sort of showed up one day and started handing out sweaters to everybody.
Yeah.
Because she didn't sleep ever, and so she had knitted sweaters for everybody overnight.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Weird Science too, and it was, they were released pretty close together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually surprised me. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I put the list together.
Yeah.
Of course, you got Fright Night,
Mm,
the original,
yep.
which is a lot better than the remake.
I have intentionally not watched the remake.
Yeah. Friday Night was a fun film.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. And speaking about fun horror films, how about Return of the Living Dead?
Was that the one about the boyfriend being a zombie?
This is the one where they basically they say that Night of the Living Dead actually really happened, and here's these canisters that happen to end up in the mortuary. It has Linnea Quigley, Clu Gallagher. Is this even kind of ringing the bell? Because what happened was they burned like the original like Patient Zero or whatever you call, and the smoke went up into the air, and then the rain kind of the debris came down in the rain and kind of soaked into the cemetery. So that's how it brought up the zombies, and they started coming back to eat just brains.
Okay.
Directed by Dan O'Bannon.
Yep, I think he wrote it too.
Probably.
Yep.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever watched all of it. I know I've seen pieces of it here and there, but
Yeah.
I might actually want to do that.
I hadn't seen it in a long time. I remember it kind of being all right. I mean, there's some humor to it, but I seem to remember enjoying it.
I was just looking up my science project on IMDb,
Mm-hmm.
and they have, a picture there, and it's from Back to the Future.
Oops.
Oh gosh.
And it's a video, and then down below it has videos listed, and it's the same clip from Back to the Future. But I remember this movie, John Stockwell, who was in Christine, and you had Fisher Stevens, who was also in
He was in
what was number 5? What was that?
The Robot. Yeah. What was the name of that movie? I'm blanking on the name of the movie.
Oh God, I'm trying to pull it right now.
Johnny.
Isn't it like Short Circuit?
Short Circuit.
Yes,
Yeah, Short
that's
Circuit.
it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Nice.
Yay.
You saved us all.
God, I'm glad she didn't say gotcha.
She totally could have. We would have had to totally fall for it. Yeah.
Summer Rental. That was with John Candy.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that one, especially the race. That was fun. American Flyers.
Here, see, this is where I made the mistake. I talked about Jim Cotta possibly being a canon movie. Nope. American Ninja is the canon movie that came out this year.
God, and that was horrible.
With the fighting and all of that. Oh yeah, they were all horrible.
Because if
Canon
you
never
watch
made
it,
a good movie. Come on.
if you watch that one, if I remember correctly, Dudikoff plays a teacher and wants to talk about the environment. I'm going, where the hell did you get this?
How long did it take him to learn how to pronounce that word? Come on.
I don't know.
One thing I noticed too is we had Back to the Future in July, and then you had Michael J. Fox in another big film in August with Teen Wolf.
Oh yeah, he was a hot property.
Yeah, that was. Can you imagine trying to film 2 big movies like that at one time? No.
I mean, even back to back, you'd think
Mm-hmm.
it would be a lot.
Well, plus the fact that he was still doing the show.
Family Ties.
Family Ties, yeah.
Man,
Yep.
you're on the title train tonight. Jeez.
Except for Gotcha,
Yeah.
That wasn't a title thing. That was.
Oh, true.
Well, to me, the high point of that month was Better Off Dead. That is still a movie that I'll sit and watch. It's available on Amazon.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know you were such a John Cusack fan.
Mm.
Oh, I love John Cusack. Ever since he was in, 16 Candles?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed him.
Was he in 16 Candles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in almost all the Hughes films at that time.
He was one of the nerd brothers that Farmer Ted got out of pulled out of the house to take a picture of him with the prom queen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were wearing like miners' lights on their heads. They were funny.
Didn't that also have Booger in it? I can't
Booger.
remember his real
Booger?
name. Booger from
Booger?
No, that was Revenge of the Nerds.
Curtis Armstrong. That
yeah.
was Revenge of the Nerds, yeah.
Well, he wasn't Booger in Better Off Dead, but wasn't he in there?
Oh.
I just can't remember his name.
He was he in that? Yes. He played Charles DeMar. He was a friend of John Cusack in that one.
Well, there you go.
Dan Schneider was in this. Dan Schneider went on to do a lot of TV work. He was in the Head of the Class or whatever.
Oh.
One of the geniuses in there. And in this movie, he played Ricky, the neighbor across the street. And if you watch this movie, he has the funniest scene ever. When he's coming up to Cusack, who is talking to Monique. Lane is talking to Monique, and Ricky is coming up because Ricky is supposed to be her date to the dance. And as he's coming up, Ricky loses control or loses grip of a balloon. And it starts to float away, and he turns and leaps for it, never leaving the ground. And it floats away, so he turns and comes toward them. To me, that was the funniest scene in the whole damn movie. And, of course, he went on to do produce shows like iCarly and Sam and Cat and some others. So he did a lot of those Disney afternoon shows, those half-hour shows.
Oh, wow. Popular ones, too.
Yeah.
We also get another Tom Hanks movie here this month.
Volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ever-dreaded Godzilla 1985. Isn't this the one everybody hated?
If I remember, I still have the cup holder from that. It's an ornate plastic cup holder that you can mount in your car.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah.
Pretty awesome. Actually, I think I'm mistaken. I think it was the Matthew Broderick one that everybody hated. A little later. But
Yeah, Volunteers was where he first shared screen with his future wife.
was it? I wondered. I saw them both in there. And
Yeah.
didn't know if that was the first meeting or not.
So, all in all, not a bad summer. Really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Go month by month and give me your top movie.
Month by month.
My top movie or the top movie?
Your top movie.
Oh, God.
Wow.
You'll have 4 movies total.
May's not a great movie month.
That's what I don't know what to
Well,
pick.
May's not a good movie either. So.
We'll all go with Gotcha then, okay?
We may have to. Because you ain't going to like mine.
Well,
Why?
Because
It's your opinion.
Fletch.
I was going to go
Okay.
Fletch.
Which is partly a testament to, again, not being familiar with the source material, and 2, this is a terrible list of movies.
Yeah. I'd have to go with Fletch, too.
She's saying that. She hadn't even seen the damn thing.
I've seen...
No, I'm kidding. I was kidding. June.
Let's say what his was?
No.
I think he was going with
Gotcha. We'll just go with Gotcha.
Okay. June, I'd have to go with the Goonies. Just because it sticks in my mind as childhood, you know.
The only other one I've seen is Pritzi's Honor, and I just don't know if I can pick that one, so I think I have to go Goonies as well. I remember not liking the Goonies when I first saw it, but it's actually pretty good.
It's tough for me. I would either go Goonies or Cocoon. Although I like Bill Rider a lot too. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Goonies. It's tough, but Goonies. I like Cocoon a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, Thomas, but I'm going to go with Cocoon because at the time this came out, I was a lot closer to these old people than you guys ever thought
You did all of this just to set that up?
Yeah.
No.
Yes, he did.
No, I'm just curious as to what your thoughts were on these movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving his...
I'd have been proud of you if you had gone to all that just to set that joke up.
Oh, man.
So, July. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
See, now we have the other problem. There's a handful of really good ones here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I have to be boring and go with Back to the Future, though.
Me too.
Oh, was I'm next? Okay. Oh, God. Explorers.
Okay.
Although I would go Silverado next. I mean, I like Back to the Future, but yeah.
I would go with Silverado.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Okay, in August.
Pee-wee.
Yeah, see, this is tough.
Yeah.
Because I could see Pee-wee, and I could see Real Genius, and I could see Fright Night.
I liked Weird Science too, though.
And Weird Science. I mean, there's so... I think ultimately I have to pick Real Genius, but there's some good ones there. There really are.
Yeah. Real Genius was good with Val Kilmer.
Mm-hmm.
That was the end scene of Popcorn, wasn't it?
Yep. It sure was.
Weird Science. That's a tough one. It's a very tough one, but I'm going Weird Science.
Yeah, this is tough. You've got Weird Science, Real Genius.
Follow That Bird.
Pee-wee. American Flyers, because you got to see Alexander Paul go topless. But I'm going to go with Better Off Dead. That one still strikes me as funny.
Alrighty.
Cool.
So, all in all, really good summer.
Yeah, quite a few hits.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
A lot
what
of
the
good
numbers were like, but...
Oh, I didn't even look at numbers. So, just for you out there in the audience, we would love to hear out of that list your choice for each month. That would be great to hear. So, if y'all want to do that, go ahead and contact us with your list. We would love to hear it, and we may reveal them on a future episode. It would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we take a quick break?
Nope.
No.
Nothing here.
Okay. On that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with our picks. And we're back. And as you're quite aware of with the current situation, we've not had new books to make picks for you to go to your local comic store to purchase, but there is existing merchandise that we would love to point out to you. And stores some stores are opening up again across the cross country. So obviously limited hours and limited number of customers, obviously, but they're still offering pickup, offering shipping, and in some cases delivery. So just definitely contact your local comic shop and please help them out through these times. So with that, we are going to do our books you may have missed picks. And let me get my list up here real quick. Let's see who goes first this week. Mike goes first.
Okie dokie. So my pick is a Dark Horse title. And it's actually one that we've talked about quite a bit. I know at least Les and I are really big fans of this book.
I am too.
And this is the Resident Alien series. This is the story of an alien who's like on a scout ship. His ship crashes on Earth, and he's just kind of hanging out, waiting, hoping that his people are going to come pick him up at some point. So to kind of pass the time, since he doesn't know how long it's going to be, because he doesn't know if the message got off, he kind of heads into a small town and poses as a local doctor in this small town in Washington. And as he's kind of waiting and hoping that somebody's going to come pick him up, he just sort of hangs out and kind of solves little mysteries along the way. So it's essentially a mystery book based in a small town with a bit of a plot twist, to say the least. There are 5 volumes out already. The first one came out in 2012, and they've been coming out pretty consistently about a year and a half or so between ever since. The last one was in, I think, 2018, and rumor has it that they're working on a new one now, or now-ish, who knows what's going on, but there's one in the works, which may or may not be the last one of the series. I don't know for sure, but I don't really have many details there. But anyway, it's a really fun story. It's really nice. It's really well written, and the art is really cool. And it is called Resident Alien.
Yeah, and soon to be a series on Sci-Fi, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were working on it before everything kind of shut down.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah, with
Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk as the main character, which would be cool.
As Harry. Yep.
Harry. Yep. Which I would love. I'm ready for that.
Yep.
It'd be fun to see. I enjoyed the series, so I'm so glad that we're getting a live action adaptation. I'm ready for the next story arc. Really good stuff. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Okay, I am next, and for my choice, I am going with a collection from DC Comics entitled Justice League International Book 1, Born Again. And this collects issues 1 through 6 of Justice League, and then 7 through 17 titled Justice League International. And then the first 2 annuals, and then Suicide Squad number 13. This is the Wahaha year of the Justice League, which it's a fun read with written by Keith, easy for me to say, Keith Giffen, James DeMatteis, and art by Kevin Maguire. And it's so fun. A lot of humor. It's where the famous or infamous One Punch comes from. Just a great ride. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely pick it up.
Nice.
I agree. It is an extremely entertaining series. The artwork is phenomenal. So, yeah, take this one in.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
I'm next. My choice is a book called Jinx. This is by Brian Michael Bendis. And to describe it is kind of unusual, but you have a lot of mystery in this one. A lot of deviousness. So it's not a superhero book, but by God, it is really tightly written, and Bendis does his own artwork in this one. So grab this one. It is a big book. It is massive in its size. So be prepared to spend a week or better reading it, because this is not a sit down and read like a 6-issue series in one sitting. It's going to take you a while, but the outcome is well worth the time.
Cool.
Pretty awesome. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my pick, I'm going with Die Kitty Die, Hollywood or Bust. This one, of course, she's going to Hollywood to make a movie, and once again, somebody wants to kill her. In this one, we'll meet her cousin named Caddy, and we'll also see Kitty in a lot of different TV movies like I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, all kinds of things. So pretty good. I won't give away the ending, but I'm excited to hear that a new one's coming out to see how this one ended. So, like I said, pretty good.
Fun stuff.
It is.
Yeah, Kitty Die has always been interesting to read, so step on up and try this one.
And once again, please support your local comic stores. Like I said, a lot of them are offering curbside pickup, offering shipping. In some instances, they're offering deliveries. So just contact your local comic shop and talk to them. I'm sure they're willing to work things out. Please, by all means, pick up your pull list if you had not picked them up prior to our current situation. So just definitely help them out, and please, if you can, support the comics creators, writers, artists. They're hurt by this as well. A lot of them are offering have Patreon or have websites where you might be able to purchase some of the books that they have put out, if you can. So just please support them at this time, if you can. Alrighty. Any special shout outs this week?
No, not for me.
No.
Not this direction.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and do our regular shout outs. First off, I want to thank Pop Goes to Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of podcasts. We highly recommend that you check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. And of course, we also recommend you to check out the Podern family that we are proudly a part of on Twitter. All you need to do is just go to Twitter and do a search, #PodernFamily. Just scroll through that list, and whatever catches your fancy, please click on that link, download that episode, and hopefully you have a blast. Thank you guys for your support as always. Also want to thank Mary the Martyr for supplying the music to the podcast. We have a link in the show notes where you can check out their music. Thank you guys as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support as always. We value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, observation, complaint, what have you, please contact us. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out there. You can contact us through our social media and follow us there if you'd like. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Obviously, we're on Twitter, and it's @Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_Geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you would please take a couple moments to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
I appreciate you listening, and be sure to support your local shops.
Yes, hear, hear. Thank you for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,